Hey everyone! Before I go into the tutorial on how to set up your Google site to create your rough draft blog, I want to go through the overall structure. First and foremost, there are several features that need to be present in your rough draft on your Google Sites blog. These begin with making sure that you're using new Google Sites. So there are two different services that you can use through Google, which is the original classic Google Sites versus the new. We want to make sure that we're using the new Google Sites because it has a lot of really interesting design elements that you can use, and it's really easy to set up a blog that way. You also want to make sure that you're logged into your MyASU Gmail account. So this will make it easier to submit to Canvas and to grade. Your blog should also include some very specific sections. Now, let's make sure that we're going over those sections together. So the overall structure will look like an introduction, a development of themes, a conclusion, and your references. Your introduction should introduce the country, the restaurant, and present your research question and answer, which will be your thesis. The themes should be how you define your idea of authenticity when you're comparing it to your research that you've done. It also will be the organization of your sections, and this will be easier to see once we move into setting up your Google site. You should summarize the analysis of your comparison between your research and the restaurant, and explain your answer to the research question in your conclusion. And most importantly, you should include your references. These should be in APA format, and most importantly, your in-text citations must match each of the entries as they are presented in your references list. When we look at the introduction, we want to kind of think about all of the details that you developed in your research originally on the cuisine, the country, the culture, and all of those features that you talked about in your second post for the project, where you developed a checklist to prepare for your observation. Now, since we're not able to go through and do that observation, we want to make sure that we kind of collect and define everything that gives us the information that we need. We want to then briefly introduce the restaurant you chose for your project. So you don't have to give a lot of details here, but you'll want to say their name, what city they're in, what cuisine they're representing, and maybe a very few tidbits or small sentences about why you chose that restaurant. So think back to your proposal when you kind of said why this restaurant was interesting to you or why the cuisine was interesting to you and what led you to choose the restaurant. Next, we want to introduce the research question where we talk about authenticity. So we want to think about, is this restaurant so authentic blank cuisine? So if we want to kind of think of, is Rosita's restaurant authentic Mexican food? Is Chen's Noodle House, this restaurant, is an authentic Chinese food? And then give a brief answer. So there are 4 particular options that I found that students can use for this project. If we answer the question with yes, it is definitely authentic, then what we will know is that throughout your whole project, you're going to be talking about things that definitely support the authenticity of this restaurant. You could also answer yes, but. Now, what this means is that the restaurant has a lot of things that make it authentic, but there are things that are not. They weren't things that you found in your research. They weren't things that are part of that culture or cuisine or from that country, but they've adapted. There's some reason here that there is some change or some difference, and this could be where they started to accommodate or they started to change because they were here in Tempe. A good example of that is Al Pierogi, which is the Russian-Ukrainian restaurant. So a lot of the things that they've done is it's not just Russian or Ukrainian, it's also Polish, because those communities share a lot of history, a lot of ingredients, and a lot of cultural aspects. So there's some combination there. So yes, but we want to kind of think about, we're going to say, here are the things that are authentic, here are the things that are inauthentic. Now that's the same for if you're answering no, but. So this means that there are not a lot of things. So where the yes, but is, yes, there's a lot of things that are authentic, but a few things that aren't. The no, but is where, not so authentic, but. This would be a great example talking about like Taco Bell, for example. Taco Bell is not really authentic Mexican food, but they still use some of the ingredients, and here are the ways they're not authentic. Here are more of the ways that they are. So it's kind of, you're setting this balance. So this is going to kind of help you determine what your themes are later. The last option is, no, it's not authentic at all. So this is where you might go into someplace like Wiener Schnitzel. Now, Wiener Schnitzel is a German word. It's a dish that's served in Germany, but it's all American-style hot dogs and sausages that are loosely, very loosely based on German cuisine. So it's not authentic at all. It's very much American cuisine. And so I may have talked to you guys about, there's a couple of things, a couple of restaurants that I didn't want you guys to do because they are so far away from the original cuisine that your entire thing would be to say, no, it's not authentic at all. This one's very hard. So things like the restaurant Oregano's, that is supposed to be Italian food, but not really. It's mostly nachos and bar food and things that normally you see people eating at a football viewing party. And that's American football, not the rest of the word football soccer. Now, I talked a little bit about your themes when you're developing your answer to the research question. So you want to kind of think about, you have determined now what authenticity means when you are analyzing the restaurant you chose. So this means you want to think about those relevant features to help you kind of organize the way you're going to talk about it. So this might be that you talk about both the country, the cuisine, culture, and the restaurant. But it might also be that you separate this out into how the different aspects of the cuisine and culture, maybe even the history of the country, affect everything. This is essentially how you're also going to be creating what are the body paragraphs of your blog, but they will look like different sections. So when you look at a blog or you look at a web page, oftentimes they break it up based on the pictures and information that they're going to use. So you want to kind of think about the pictures are going to help you organize. So you want to connect things based on what you've seen, what pictures you take from your original sources, what pictures you're taking from the restaurant information's, their website, their blogs, their social media, reviews people have made. All of these things are going to be something that you include in your project, but they're also going to help you build up those body paragraphs. So some of these themes, and by default the sections might be ingredients, flavors, and dishes, preparation and approaches of the restaurant in making the food, atmosphere and decoration, as well as the people and their impressions. So we can even break these up further and maybe into individual dishes or the decor and atmosphere or the community that they create. All of these could be relevant sections you create for your blog. It all depends on your analysis. Most importantly then, with your conclusion, you want to summarize that analysis. What are the main points? So you want to think about how you've sectioned off each of your sections in your blog and what's important from each of those to know. This should also explain your answer to the research question. So you answered that yes, it definitely is, no, it's definitely not, or that yes, but, no, but kind of answer. So in your conclusion, you want to go back and kind of say, yes, this restaurant is authentic, but here are the reasons that it's a little bit inauthentic and why that's important to know. So you want to go back to that research question of, is this restaurant authentic? And that's something that kind of completes and rounds out the writing for your project. Last, and the most important, since this project is very much based on research, you have to remember to format the sources that you've used for this project very carefully. Now, you're going to have your original 4 sources that you've used, but you're also going to have these additional sources that I've asked you to get in your attendance posts about the background. So you're going to have to cite those as well. Also, any images you take from Google or the websites or sources that you've gathered, you'll need to make citations for each of these as well. Now, your citations need to be in APA format. This means that the source list at the end of your project will be titled as references. So different formatting styles, APA, MLA, Chicago, IEEE, they all have different titles that they put at the top of their references list, or their works cited list if it's MLA. So you want to remember that that formatting counts. To be correct in your citations, you have to have both in-text citations and a references list. If you do not have both, you will fail the assignment for plagiarism. So the reason this is if we can't see where you're using the source information in your paragraphs, then we can't check it in your list. But if you have in-text citations and you don't have a list, that means we don't know what your sources actually are, so we can't verify the information. Last, each entry on your references list should match your in-text citations. The list should be in alphabetical order by that first letter, and different types of sources have different rules. So you have to not only make sure that you have them in that correct formatting, but also the in-text citations match the first word of the source's entry. So in the next tutorial, what I'll be talking about is how this will appear on Google Sites. So before you move into the next video, make sure that you are logged into your MyASU Gmail account, and then click on the link that says New Google Sites above the tutorial for setting it up.